Okay, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Chetan, Likita, CT Express, Revati. Good evening, everyone. So, let's start today's topic. Are you able to see the screen? How to write a business letter today or tomorrow? Okay, I will try. I will try not today, but I'll see and I'll let you know tomorrow. Hmm, okay, what happened to my phone? Why it is not showing that? So, today we have to discuss about two things. Multiculturalism and demographic. Actually, in your syllabus, they have mentioned trend, but basically, questions comes on demographic dividend. So, demographic dividend is means it's like economic topic, economics topic, right? Whereas if you will see the demographic trend, it is looking like more geography topic, right? Demographic trend, right? Whereas demographic dividend, it's more like economic topic. Anyhow, whatever the name they have given in their syllabus, generally they do ask question on demographic dividend, right? So let's first finish this small topic that is known as a multiculturalism. आज मैंने मॉर्निंग 6 AM से लेके 6 PM तक रीजनिंग का सारा सिलेबस कवर कर लिया, शाबाश। अब सिलेबस कवर कर लिया तो क्वेश्चन भी सॉल्व करो, सिर्फ सिलेबस कवर करने से काम नहीं होगा, यू हैव टू डू अ लॉट ऑफ प्रैक्टिस। All these topics like reasoning, English, maths, means they need practice, right? You can, if you'll not do the practice, then result will be like not good result. Okay, so do a lot of practice also. So anyone want to explain what is multiculturalism? Anyone want to throw light or their idea about multiculturalism? What is multiculturalism? Anyone who's interested to explain? See, here there are two terms, multi and culture. First tell me what is culture? You have heard this term, I think, almost on daily basis, culture. What is culture? Saurav is saying that people of different ethnicity living together. Diversity in our culture. What is culture? That is our cultural values. That is not our culture. That is our culture. It is a part of our culture. You must follow this thing because it's a part of our culture. So a lot of time people use this term culture. What is culture? So tell me culture, then we will automatically understand what is multicultural. It's not going to be difficult. Way of living of a certain group. Okay. Any other person who want to define what is culture? See, if you will see what is the biggest advantage humans do have over the animals is what? Communication and better motor skills. Motor skills means to understand, adapt, and innovate. Right. So all these things distinguish and they are best in the humans, right, in comparison to any other animal. Though in some cases dolphins have performed better than humans, right? But still, in general, humans have better communication and better motor skills in comparison to any other species on this earth, right? And that's why humans are a kind of species who prefer to live in a groups, right? Which I told you this thing in the very first lecture when I have started this socio-economic part, right? So when you are start living in the group, then the term identity, the identity will come. Identity as an individual. Identity of group or group identity, right? So individual's identity, right? The identity of an individual with his distinct name and surname, right? Then surname, then caste group, then religion, right? So name is more or less what? Name is going to give you an individual's identity, whereas other, the surname, caste, group, or religion, that is going to give you the distinct group identity, right? That is going to give you the distinct group identity. Fine. So, in order to maintain, that unique group identity, people do perform certain activities which are related to their caste group, right, or religious group, or linguistic group, right? So all these practices which generally a person is going to perform to maintain their identity, right, at religious level, at caste level, or हमारे खानदान में ऐसा होता है, or means in my family that there is a tradition, it's my family tradition, it's my cultural tradition. So those activities which is being performed by the human to maintain their identity as an individual, identity as a family, identity as a group, identity as a caste, identity as a religion, or even identity as a country, right? So that become what, that become the culture of family, right? फैमिली कल्चर है. पीपल से ना कि भाई हमारे हमारे घर का, हमारे मींस इन माय फैमिली दिस हैपेंड, राइट? सो फैमिली कल्चर और कास्ट कल्चर, राइट? सो I was taking a mock interview of a candidate. So interview was over. So the thing came, and a particular point, because that was not a formal conversation, that was an informal conversation after the interview. So he just said that कि sir, non-vegetarian food means red meat. वो तो बाकी वो लोग ऐसे ही खाते हैं. In our community, we are going to identify as a what when we will go for red meat. Otherwise, there is no meat. That is only red meat, right? So the meat means what? Red meat. So he was trying to identify himself as a particular group among the other groups, and we are the people who have this trait. So many times people will show their cultural trait, their religious trait, right? And sometimes they do promote also, and they try to show that ki my culture, my family culture, my caste culture, my religious activities. I'm using the term culture, but actually they always try to say that ki this religious practice is the best practice, this caste practice is the best among the others, right? So always there is a kind of what, there is a kind of to pushing their activities or their culture as a best culture, right? So it's sometimes it is in disguise, sometimes people deliberately try to push it, right? So there is a way, right, which is they feel that this is the right way, right? So they try to identify this thing with the culture. So there are the different cultures, right? And maybe there is a large group, that is nation, right, or country. So for example, France. So French people, right? Religion, language. So religion and language, that is very common among the most of the French people, right? Most of the French people. And from 17th century onwards, they started exploring the world and they have established their colonies in Africa, in Asia, and even in the Latin America, right? So people started migrating to those areas, and from there they started migrating to France. So people who are of different culture, means they have different distinguished practice of religion, caste group, and language, they start moving to France and from other countries to France, right? So till then Second World War, there is a huge discrimination among those peoples. However, after the Second World War, the European countries has realized that we must accept all other people and we should not discriminate on the basis of their caste, religion, ethnicity, whatever. So we must accept, right? We must accept on all. But the condition is that everyone who is coming to France, so their first identity must be what? French. Whatever the religion, whatever the ethnicity, whatever the language you are going to have, that is secondary. Your French identity should be primary, right? Same thing also opted by US. Yeah, right? USA. So whatever all of your identity you have, that is secondary, and your identity as a US person or US citizen, that is your primary identity. What it means that? It means that if you have any other identity, and that identity is going to clash, with your identity as a US citizen. So you must give up that identity in order to maintain what? US identity. Now I am going to talk in terms of culture. So I'm going to replace this term identity with culture, right? So countries like USA, France, and other European countries, they started accepting people of different caste, religion, ethnicity, all. But they have one condition of what? Melting pot. They have a precondition of melting pot. What is melting pot? So this is the pot. Right? You can say France or US, right? So this is the pot. If you are coming here, right? If you are coming to this pot, you must have one common identity, that is the identity of French, or that is identity of being a US citizen, right? So you must give up all other things if they are going to clash. If they are going to clash with US identity or French identity, you must have to give it up. If that identity is not clashing with what? Your French identity, or being your British identity, or being your US identity, right? Then you can freely practice those religious practices or whatever you want to practice, you can practice. That is not going to be issue for us. But if that practice is going to hurt, what? That practice is going to hurt, or it is going to overlap or clash with the identity of being a French or being a US citizen, then you must have to give up that identity, right? For example, in in France, hijab is completely not allowed at any working place. Any working place, hijab is not allowed. And even at the most of the time, any religious symbol is not allowed at public working places. So if it is a public working place, then you cannot symbolize your religious identity. You must be show your French identity, being as a French because it's a public place. So the public place should not going to a public servant or public officials should not show any kind of their other identity. They must be identified as a French only. They believe in this. Still they believe in this, right? They still believe in this philosophy. So that is why sometimes France is known as what? Ultra nationalist. Ultra nationalist, right? So they accept they accept all cultures, religion, even language, right? Even a language, they accept it. They accept it. But being in a France, if you want to do any government job, you must know the French language, right? Similarly, all cultural and religious activities you have to give up if you are going to be what? As a public servant or government official, you must have to give it up in order to doing all those things, right? So in 1950s, this policy of what? This philosophy of multiculturalism was very prominent, especially in the West. And that concept of multiculturalism means what? The concept of melting pot. Melting pot of philosophy means what? Whatever you caste, religion, ethnicity, whatever you have, you are most welcome in our country. We are not going to have any discrimination with you, but you must have to accept the common culture or the basic culture of nation. Then it's fine. Without it, it is not possible. You can be a part of our culture. We accept your culture, but there is a condition. Condition of what? You have to assimilate yourself with our common practices, right? So this was the dominant philosophy from 1950s to even 1980s. However, from 1980s onwards, there was a movement not only in USA but also in the. I will come to the Indian point also, but just because multiculturalism as a philosophy or the concept, it is started in US, right, and in the West. So that's why I'm explaining their position first. Later on, I will come to the Indian position also. So multiculturalism through melting pot, multiculturalism through melting pot, it was very prominent. It was very prominent in what? European countries, right? But in 1980s, the movement started, and that was against the philosophy of melting pot. And more progressive people came forward in the name of rights, right? In the name of rights, or in the better word, in the name of human rights. In the name of human rights, the things came in the picture, and it was being accepted ki, okay, if you have certain religious practices and it is not going to harm the country, it is not against the country, then even you can follow those religious practices. For example, a Sikh man who is having the turban is being allowed by the US armed forces. He can be in turban while serving the US army. So exception was made. Earlier there was a no exception. You must have to give up all of your religious practices or symbols. You must have to give up if you want to serve the US army. But he fought, and finally US courts and their legislation have accepted this thing. And now the turban man, even a man with the turban, he can join the forces, right? Even in the Indian armed forces, since beginning they are being allowed. So British were very clever. They immediately understand this thing. In India, country like India, the identity, the caste identity and religious identity is very important for those subcontinent people, right? So that's why they have, from beginning, they have maintained this thing. But US like country and other countries, they started opting this as a right. They are not with the this thing, the multicultural definition. Under the definition of multicultural, they have not accepted this thing. But under the definition of human rights, they have started accepting the multi ethnicities, right? Multi ethnicity, multiple religion. You can perform your religious practices also, right? We are not going to push you. No, you must have to follow this practice on only. For example, the controversial debate between halal and jhatka meat, right? So it's up to you. Whatever the way you want to go for it, we have no issues, right? So it's not like that, you must have to perform this practice only or that practice only. Anyone who want to perform their all religious practices, they can perform. Recently in the Ashes is a series between Australia and England, right? After the winning that series, who won the series? Australia won the series 5-0, and the celebration was started. And during that celebration, there was a Pakistani-born Australian cricketer. His name is Usman Khwaja. Usman Khwaja. So, as per religious practice, he is not going to be in the picture if any kind of liquor is going to be mentioned there, right? So Australian team, most of the people, they are Christian, and for them means liquor is not a big issue, so everybody was trying to pour the champagne. But all of a sudden, the Pat Cummins, the present captain of their team, they asked their boys ki hold it on, just ask him to come in the group photo. So because why he was not coming in the group photo? Because they are flashing the champagne, and his religious practice do not allow be the part of any kind of the thing. So he was standing alone in the side. But his captain said that no, we must have to put it down and let him in the group photo. Then he can move and we can start doing the celebration even with the champagne. So this is what the acceptance. This is what the acceptance, because not as per the court order. It was not because of the court order. You himself realized that okay, we must have to accommodate him, right? So there are the many instances when the players have refused to go for advertisement. For example, Castle, they are what? They are a sponsor of South African team, right? So some players have refused ki we are not going to use this film. For example, Moeen Ali, he refused ki we are not going to show that kind of any liquor kind of the thing on my t-shirt, right? So we are not going to force you. We are not going to force you. If you are happily going to accept this thing, then it's fine. If you are not happily going to accept it, you can follow your own practice, right? So it's not like that ki that is against the nation or nationalism. Okay, if you want to perform your religious practices or language practices, that's fine for us. It's not a difficulty for us, right? So this is what we called it today's multiculturalism, right? When we happily accept without any force or without any law, when we accept all those things, then it is going to be what? Then it is going to be a multicultural system, right? So this is the basic philosophy of today's multiculturalism. Have you got the understanding what basically multiculturalism means? So multiculturalism, when the people are going to accept the other's identity, right? Others' identity happily without any force or without any push, they are going to accept it. Then we called it as a what? Multicultural approach. Yes, and even see in India and see in the US, in United States, every year they celebrate every year their Congress, means their parliament. In India, we called it as a parliament. They called it as a what? In US, it is known as Congress. So every year they perform one religious activity. Every year they do perform one religious activity at their house. For example, few years back they have celebrated the Deepavali. So every year they celebrate almost all the festivals, right? So this is we are going to accept you without any discrimination. So when you start accepting people without any discrimination, then it is known as truly multicultural approach. So we are not going to identify or separate on the basis of what the language you are speaking, right? What the language you are speaking or what religion you have, it's not an issue, right? It's not an issue for us. Then it is kind of a multicultural approach. Okay, is it clear what is basically multicultural approach is? Any question if you have, you can ask me. And you know why this topic, why this topic is in the RBI syllabus. Multiculturalism do not have any direct link with the what? Money, banking, or even economy. But still that topic is in RBI syllabus, grade B syllabus. Why? Why they have put this topic in your syllabus? Anyone? Anyone want to throw the light why RBI do have this multicultural topic in your syllabus? Hmm? The video got stuck then and now. Anyone else is having this issue? See, why they do have this topic, they put this topic of multiculturalism in your syllabus. Because in the multicultural society, if people are happily accepting other culture, or you can say other language, other religion, right? Uh, and based on ethnicity, right? So if people are in the multicultural society, so these are not going to be the political issue. Religion is not going to be a political issue. Ethnicity of a particular person, ki he is of northeastern ethnicity, means he is kind of mongoloid race and he is from Dravidian race, so such kind of the ethnicity is never going to be an issue, right? Similarly, language related issues are also not going to be there, and caste related issues are not going to be there. So if all these issues are not going to be there, then what will be the issue? Or what will be the political issue is going to be there? Then the political issue is going to be there is what? Job, economic growth. health and education, right? Poverty. So all these things are going to be what? The issue in your political system. Right now, the countries who do not have accepted the things of multicultural society, they have these issues. For example, in country like India, still all these issues are the big issues, and politicians do fight election either against or with that kind of the issues. But all these real issues are going to be there if you are happily accepting the multicultural approach. Then you are going to focus on what? On all these issues, and these issues are going to be the primary issue in any political system. That means the entire focus should be on socio economic well-being. Socio-economic well-being, what you can say in the other words, human development related approach. Human development related issues are going to be the primary issue in that country. So you are automatically going to focus more and more on what? Socio and economic, like another thing, rather than focusing on the cultural aspects of the people's identity. Right? So economic identity is going to be more important in the multicultural society than any other identity. People are more concerned with their economic well-being and social well-being rather than any other well-beingness if you are having this multicultural approach. So we must have to way forward to us towards the multicultural nation so that our politicians will realize that these are the core issues and not these issues. So that's why everyone must have understand the importance of a multicultural society. This is the reason why they have put this topic in your syllabus. And 99% question will come from only a descriptive type from this topic rather than any objective type of question is not possible from this topic. And the question is going to be in the same language. Why a true multicultural society is very important for India's economic growth. Maybe question they are going to ask in certain way, right? So this is what you have to write it there, or your answer should be on the basis of this approach what we have discussed just right now. Okay. We will be working with person of various beliefs. That's why maybe. Okay. While framing the policies, we have considered its importance. Okay, maybe because RBI is a central bank and it operates across the country. Okay, nice try by everyone. So now you got why RBI have this topic. Why RBI has this topic. So by putting this topic for those people who are aspiring to work with the Reserve Bank, RBI just want to give a kind of indirect message that this is what is the real issue, right? And all our people who are working or they are going to work with RBI, they must know the severity or the importance of this issue, right? And you have to leave all those things, right? Your other identity and come to this institute, Reserve Bank of India, with having all these things in your mind rather than having these things in your mind. So this is why they have put this part in your syllabus. Right. So you should be very clear. You should be very clear ki what are the original issues can be faced by any nation like India rather than other superficial issue. Right. It's all these things are what? All these things are very kind of personal thing. But if I'll start speaking on any of this topic, right? Any of this topic, I know that the debate will be erupted. Right. But and that debate is going to have good number of viewership, but our objective here is not to get more number of viewership by having the controversial debates or controversial comments like So there is no need. I have seen some videos where people have instigated such kind of the unnecessary comments, right? And they have gained their popularity in the millions, right? Their popularity in the millions. So I was very curious because I always try to discover why that particular teacher or teaching method is so popular, right? So most of the time, what I found that where the content is very good from the point of view of exam preparation. The point of view of exam preparation, content is very good. Then that content is going to be have 1 or 2 digit, means like 21K or 10K views, right? Content, the possibility of having this double digit is very less. Maybe it is going to be what in the single digit K. If the content is very good and that content needs some patience to study it, so or even to explain it needs some time, so content is having some length like 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hour, or even sometimes 3 to 4 hour content. So having the viewership of what single K or double K maximum. But when the things are with what entertaining kind of the thing, entertainment means what, when you are going to make a controversial comment or something like uh, I say cheap, right? So it is going to entertain the people. Then it is going to be in the millions, right? Because I hope I don't want to say, but I hope you understand, right? So this is the reason, right? This is the reason. But RBI wants some people who have the focus on the right content, who have the right approach, right? So they must understand all these things. They must understand all these things. That's why they have put in their syllabus. Fine. Okay, I have one PDF regarding the multiculturalism. They have tried to define what is multiculturalism. In this PDF, they have tried to define what is multiculturalism, and they have wrote explicitly here modern states. Modern states mean today's country like India or whatever, right? So modern states are organized around the language and culture of the dominant group. So modern state is having organization around the language and culture of dominant group that have historically constituted them, who have constituted them. As a result, member of the minority cultural group faces the barrier in pursuing their special practices in ways that member of the dominant group do not. Right. So minority group have some distinct religious and other practices which is not performed by the majority group. So then you have faced the problem. Right. Some theorists argue for the tolerating minority groups by leaving them free of state. Other argues that more tolerant of the group different falls short of treating members of the minority group as a equal. What is required is the recognition and positive accommodation of minority group practices known as group differentiated right. So I just discussed with you what is group differentiated right. Means we must have to be tolerant enough in order to accept the other minorities practices, right? So this is what they called it as a group differentiated right. Some group differentiated rights are held by the individual member of the minority group, as in the case of individuals who are granted exemption from generally applicable laws in the virtue of their religious belief, or individuals who seek language accommodations in education and in voting. Right? Means we are going to accept whatever the language, or even in the voting rights, we are going to accept it. Other group differentiated rights are held by the groups Q pro group rather than by the members severely, such as right are properly called as a group rights. So it is our group right, right? It is not just based on what? It is not just based on particular individual or particular religion, right? So it is group based right, as in the case of indigenous group and the minority nation. For example, the Telangana movement. The Telangana movement itself, entire the Telangana region or Telangana state and even the Andhra Pradesh state, both have the common thing what? The Telugu language. But the group of people who are coming from the Telangana regions, they always have this identity of being a people of Telangana. And they always have this thing in their mind ki being as a part of this part of the Andhra Pradesh state, we are marginalized and we are not getting our dues. So that's why the demand of what a separate state was started, right, with the Telangana Rashtra Samiti movement, right. So in that context, the example of group right is very important. Same thing in the Uttarakhand. Same thing happened in the Uttarakhand. The people of the hilly part of the Uttar Pradesh, they always feel that ki we as a group, rather than based on the particular religion of that hilly area or particular language, they feel that ki people from what? People from the hilly area of Uttar Pradesh, they are not getting their dues. So Uttarakhand was also formed. So the formation of Uttarakhand, Chhattisgarh, and Telangana, right, where there is no such a issue like language related issue what we have seen in the past when the formation of state was happened, right. Even the formation of the Andhra Pradesh state was based on what? Government of India do not accept it, but the main reason behind that, the language, right, language based state. Gujarat state and Maharashtra was formed earlier, it was a Bombay state, right. So it was bifurcated in what? Gujarat and Maharashtra. Fine. So all these are an example of what? Group rights. As in the case of indigenous group and minority nation who claim the right for self-determination. In a latest respect, multiculturalism is closely allied with what? Closely allied with nationalism. Right. The idea of multiculturalism is a contemporary political discourse and the political philosophy. See, this entire article is based on what? This entire article, because I told you कि multiculturalism is not a kind of topic of economics. It's a topic of political philosophy. Right. It's a more political or social, or even it's a 99% it's a political topic rather than economic topic, right. So that's why here you can see that they have mentioned about the political philosophy reflect the debate about how to understand and respond the challenges associated with the cultural diversity based on ethnicity, national, religious differences, right. The term multicultural often used as a descriptive term to categorize the fact of diversity in the society, but what follows the focus on multiculturalism as a normative idea in the context of Western liberal democracies. Right. While the term has come encompass variety of normative claims, goals, and it's fair to say that the proponent of the multiculturalism find it common ground to rejecting the idea of melting pot. Just I have explained. First, I have explained. Now I am reading this thing, right? So, rejecting the idea of what? Melting pot. Melting pot was an idea, and that was portrayed as what? A multicultural. But later on, this melting pot philosophy was rejected. The rejecting the idea of melting pot. Melting pot. If you are going to be in the melting pot, then you have to give up all of these identities, right. In which member of minority groups they have explained what is melting pot here. Melting pot in which members of the minority group are expected to assimilate into the dominant culture. Instead, proponents of multiculturalism endorse an ideal in which members of the minority group can maintain their distinctive collective identities and practices. In the case of immigrants, proponents emphasizes the multiculturalism is a compatible with, not opposed to, the integration of immigrants into the society. Multicultural policies provide a fairer term of integration for the immigrants. Now, you have seen the Brexit. You have seen the Brexit. You know, one of the main friction point, apart from the economic issues, one of the main friction point between UK and EU was the issue of what? What the issue of immigrants. Because what it is written here, this part is an official philosophy of EU. This is the official philosophy of EU. Accepting homes, accepting even immigrants, accepting even immigrants who are running out of their country for their life, especially coming from Africa or Asian countries. They are immigrants, right? They are immigrants, they are running to your country. So that was a main friction issue because EU believe in this philosophy. EU believe in this philosophy, even in the case of immigrants, the multiculturalism is a compatible with no opposition to the integration of immigration into the society. Multicultural policy provide the fairer term of the integration. Right. So they are European countries, especially led by whom? France and Germany. Right. France and Germany, they are more open to what? The immigrations. Whereas UK was not very comfortable with such kind of the policies. So economic issues and this issue of immigrants was the one of the main important issue why the Brexit finally was accepted by the common British people. Right. They are not in the favor of the immigration policies of European Union. So this is one of the point to start having a discussion for the Brexit. Apart from the economic issues, though economic issue was the dominant issue, economic issue was a dominant issue. If you will see Europe, if you will see EU, right? So EU, France, Germany, right? France and Germany, they are powerhouse of Europe, right? To some extent, you can also include Italy and Spain. Italy, Spain, and Netherlands. The rest of the normal countries. So basically, what is happening because of this European Union? If any other member state is going to have a problem, so EU have to fund. EU have to fund. For example, the Greek crisis, when the economy of Greece went down, so EU was bound to help, despite knowing that the Greek government is not following the right policy and practices, but they must have to help them. And UK was not very comfortable with such kind of the thing because UK have joined the Europe for more benefits, but later on UK find that it is not a benefit, but it is becoming a what? Liability, right? Liability to help other nation members. Rather than we are going to get any trade and commerce related benefit, we are going to be what? We are going to be a part of organization. I am going to be the part of organization which is going to pushing more liabilities on my countrymen. So this was the one of the reason that was always in our mind. And then the immigration related differences have fueled this thing. Even the Brexit was not just the first time they have tried and do it, the Brexit. Even in the Britain, the poll happened in past also, referendum happened in the past also for the Brexit. Earlier, when the Tony Blair was a prime minister, so it was rejected. But now this the immigration issue, the overall financial problem. So people have accepted for the Brexit, and British have separated themselves from the European Union. So multicultural issue have played very important role there, right? And now they in this part they started talking about multiculturalism in further way. So broader part of the political movement for the greater inclusion of marginalized. So earlier they was not using this term marginalized. Earlier they was using the term like what? Immigrants, and they are using the term what? They are using the term on the basis of what? On the basis of ethnicity, national, religious differences. Now the marginalized section. And when they talk about the marginalized section, they are talking about African Americans, women, LGBT group, right? So now it is going to be more diversified, more diversified. Now, what we have discussed in past means a few minutes back, not in past, like in today's lecture, I have started with what? The identity. Identity being what? Identity being as a religion, caste, or group. Now, one more identity, the identity of women itself, identity of gay, identity of lesbian, right? So, all these identities are also emerging in the social spectrum, right? Social spectrum, especially in the Western countries, it's very vocal. It's very vocal. It's kind of people are outrightly going to accept it. But that was not 10 years or 15 years back. It was not a story 15 years back. Uh, okay, screen is back or not? Are you able to see the screen? Because it was disconnected. So a few years back means it was like 2006 or 7. 2006 or 7. I am not able to recall exact year. One of my friend, he means in from our school group, he got job in US. He is working in India. Later on, he got an opportunity to go to the US, and it was very first day of his job. So we was on what? We was on the group, and we have just a chat with him. Ki, how is your first day in US? Where are you? So a lot of chat. So at the time of when he means uh, because the office is very nearby to his place where he was living. So for lunch, he just came to back his house, and we are all on the kind of conference call. And he said that, Ki, yaar, I don't know why everyone means, especially some people, are means they are not looking at me; they are staring at me. So we asked, Ki, who? So he was saying that, Ki, अरे वही वही लोग. I said, वही लोग. What means वही लोग? What do you mean by वही लोग? So he's saying that कि यार means they are male, but they are looking at me with very different way. I said, what? He said, yes, they are looking at me with the different kind of the feeling and the facial expressions. तो मैंने कहा कि भाई क्या हुआ क्या मीन्स व्हाट हैपेंड. अच्छा, जस्ट सेंड मी योर पिक, क्लिक योर पिक्चर एंड सेंड अस. सो ही सेंड अस. He was wearing actually a pink shirt and black pant. So I said the entire problem with the pink shirt, because generally if you are wearing a pink shirt in US, that is story of 2006-7, right? Not right now, story of 2006-7. If you are wearing a pink shirt and you are a male, right, adult male, and you are having a pink shirt, then that means you are just telling others कि I'm a gay, right? So I told him कि this is a practice there. So he immediately changed his shirt. He immediately changed his shirt, and then he went to the office, right? So in US, it is almost kind of what US and in the European countries, people outrightly accept it, right? Outrightly accept it. For example, one of the great character of Big Bang Theory, Sheldon Cooper, he's also gay, right? Loki of Avengers. Same thing with him also, right? So when people means who are watching that Big Bang Theory in India in our group, I told this spoiler, you know he's a gay. so everybody got what? Everybody got nervous कि अरे यार ये ऐसा कैसे हो सकता है? So here people have that what, a kind of understanding कि that person cannot be gay. But in the Western societies, they outrightly accept all those things, right? And even now the Indian Supreme Court also have taken the same kind of what, same kind of the approach. It is not a criminal activity, right? It's not a criminal activity being a gay or lesbian, like kind of the thing, right? So when we are going to openly accept all those things, then in the true sense we are going to be what, multicultural. But you have seen that means, okay, fine, everything is fine, but people in India do not going to accept this thing as a common thing even in coming few years. But whenever the such kind of the question will be asked in the exam, you should not say about the reality what I just explained to you, right? For example, people coming from the northeastern part, they are being discriminated. The slang word they are, that is completely inappropriate, but still they have used. People are not comfortable. People are not comfortable. So I was in Delhi and I was searching for a room. So I went to the particular place and the rent was decent. So I thought that why the rent is low and why people has not grabbed this room till then now. So other guy came from the room, the other room. There was a two room, and that was he was from I think he was from Manipur, right? So other people do not want to stay there because they feel that no, they have their own religious cultural practices and these are not good, so they don't want to be there. So still that discrimination is there. People are not comfortable when you are sitting with a person who is having a completely different kind of social religious identity, right? Voice is breaking. So this PDF is not visible. Now it is okay. Voice is okay. Voice is okay. Okay. So whenever the such kind of the issue related to multiculturalism will come, you have to show your tolerant approach, not the practical things which is happening in India, but you have to show the multicultural approach, right? So in this PDF, this part is most important part, right? So you have this thing in your mind. Though, as I told you, ki once this part will be finished, I will start the descriptive plus revision part. So in the descriptive part, I will give you a proper answer ki how to answer this question. Right now, I'm not going to discuss the question, but I have few questions. So I will let you know how to write the answer on the questions related to multiculturalism or any other topic. Just giving you an understanding what multiculturalism means, right? We must accept under the multiculturalism, people are going to accept all group based or individual based or religion based identity without any difficulty. Then we will call it as a multicultural approach. Okay, fine. So this part of multicultural is over. Now we have to take the other part, that is what? Demographic trend. What is demography? What is demography or demographic? What is demography? Explain what is demography. Anyone want to throw the light? What demography means? Composition of population. Okay. Composition of population or study of composition of population, demography. We do study the composition of population under the demography. Working age population which can be used for the productive activity. That is dividend. That is demographic dividend. I am asking what is demography. I'm not asking what is demographic dividend. When you are going to get a dividend from your demography, then you can say this thing ki the working age population or the population, rather than working age population you can say that the population which can be used for the productive activity or your country's economic growth. Study of a human population. Study of a human population in a particular geographical context. Study of a human population, the trend in a particular geographical context. Right. So geographical context is very important here. So Saurav, Chetan, Saikat, okay. Anyone else want to try? Means whenever I'll ask the question, I'll miss that dialogue of what dangal dialogue. Mari choriyan ka choro se kam hai. But here I'm not getting any answer from them. You should try. It's not about the answer will be perfect. You must have to try. You must have to try. Whatever the answer will be, that is not going to matter. Your hesitation should not be there. You must participate. Whenever I'll say you have to participate here. So after this, I have to say Mari choriyan वाकई छोरों से कम है. So prove me wrong. Okay. So demographic trend is the topic in your syllabus, but we are going to study this topic from the point of view of demographic dividend. Right. So demography is what? Demography is a study of population in the particular geographical area. Study of population in a particular geographical area. Maybe that is not a perfect definition as per the geography, and maybe some people who are preparing for UPSC with the geography optional, they feel that this is not an appropriate definition. Sir, kya bol rahe hain? This is not true. But here we are not studying the geography. We are studying for grade B exam. So I need not to go for the standard definition of demographic studies. I just have to provide you a kind of common acceptable definition which can you understand, right? So दिल पे लेने की जरूरत नहीं है. Those people are having the geography optional, right? So demographic study of a population in a particular geographical area, that is the demography. So maybe we have to study the demography of India, right? So in our geographical space, what is the growth of population, right? Population, age group, right? Age group. So we are going to study from the different point of view ki how the population is rising, how the population in particular areas declining, what are the trends, what is the growth rate. All these things we are going to study in the demography, right? And if that demography is going to see, if there is a demography, then there is going to be the impact on our economic system. So that demography is going to hurt our economic system or it is going to help our economic system, right? So accordingly the study, the impact of demography on economy of a country is known as demographic dividend, right? So the demography, how the demography is going to impact the economy, we study in the demographic dividend, right? So if you will see the case of India, right? Or before going to the case of India, some basic theories of demography. Some basic theories of demography was propounded by the many people, right? So just going to give you one idea, then I will take the case of India. And that case also implied on India, right? So they have studied the demography of many countries. The reason why this demographic dividend is a part of study in the economics, the reason was Japan. The Japan, right? So Japan, which was completely raised, means destroyed in the Second World War, means 60-70% of their economic system was destroyed, and they are being imposed with heavy fines and other things are being imposed. Even after all those things, and without any having any natural resources, Japan was able to achieve the phenomenal growth in 1950s, then in 60s, then again in 70s and 80s, even in 90s. So despite having no resources, right? So Japan was able to achieve a phenomenal growth, and that's why the Japanese growth has attracted many people to know how it is possible. Then all of them they agreed that Japan was the benefited largely because of what? Its demography. So the first country, the example, as an example, the first country which have effectively utilized its demography for the rich economic dividend, that was Japan. So from there, economists have started focusing on this section also, which is generally being a part of what? The geographical studies, right? So, but after the successful growth, means the phenomenal growth of Japan, they have started studying the demographic dividend kind of the thing. Fine. So Japan has shows this thing to the entire world. So generally, the many theories in the demography, we need not to discuss all those theories. I just want to discuss one theory. And as per this theory, in the demographic theory, they focus on what? They focus on two things: death rate and birth rate. To understand the demography, they focus on the two data, the death rate and the birth rate, right? And they say that when the nation, when a particular nation is in what? Is a nascent phase, means the economy is not properly developed, resources are not available. Resources are not available, and that country is a resourceless country. There is nothing with them, and they are in the primitive phase. Then there will be what will be in the fill in the banks? High or low? Similarly, for this, what do you think? If a country is a poor, very poor country in terms of resources and economic activities not good there, then what do you think? That country is going to have a high death rate or low death rate, with combination of high death rate or low death rate? What will be the right answer? High and high, or high and low, or low and low, or low and high? What do you think? Which combination is true for the poorest country? Vidimatra Nala, she sang means the role played by the population in certain aspects and trends. Okay, good. High and high. High and high. Vedmruta. Very nice name. Vedmruta. Tell me the meaning of this name. High and high. Dipti is saying high and high. Chetan is saying high would be high. Okay. Death rate will be high, I think, due to the lack of medical resources. Yes. See, for a poor country, when a country is in the poor phase, then they are going to have this kind of the thing, high and high. Both are going to be very high. Why both are going to be very high? Because of the death rate. Death rate, the birth rate is going to high. Birth rate is going to high because of the death rate. Why? There is a see, we all are known, right? Our identity comes from whom, who have given birth to us, right? So whenever you are going to tell your name, you must mention the name of your father first, right? So the identity given us by whom? The identity given us by our parents. But the true thing is, they are going to get the identity because of us. So we are being known because of our father, right? So similarly, I am going to be known by my son. Fine. So the point is, humans will go for reproduction. The two reason, they want to just carry forward their genes, right? This is the reason of the carry forward. But the other reason for being a carry forwarding the genes is to be remain having an identity. Right. So identity is one of the issue why humans will go for the reproductions. Right. So this is why the birth of a child is very important in a family. But if because of the lack of resources, right, lack of resources, disease, pandemic is going to kill the most part of the population, then having a one or two kid is going to be always create a fear in the mind of parents. Ki maybe if the pandemic or something like will come, I am going to be what? I am going to be identityless. So that is why a natural tendency among the parents is to have more number of kids so that their family can still survive, right? So this is the psychological thing they have in their mind. There is no need to go and research in that, just a psychological thing, right? So this is why the birth rate and the death rate are more very high in the poorer countries. As the economy is going to progress, as the economy is going to progress, then what will happen? Government is able to employ more health resources. More health resources. And when government is going to employ more health resources, then what is going to happen? If the government is going to deploy more health resources, earlier it was high and high. High and high. Uh, so earlier it was high and high. So once the government will start implementing, when the government will start implementing many various measures of health related thing, then this is going to be what? This is going to be slow down from from high to moderate. High to moderate, but the possibility here is more of what? High. Birth rate may be still going to be high, however, because of what? The implementation by the government with various social health measures, the death rate is going to be what? Death rate is going to be slow down from high to moderate or even low. right? Even low. Then you can see this phase in India. That was case of India from 1901 to 1947. 1947. From 1950 onwards, we have seen this trend in India from 1951 to 1981, especially 1981, from especially in the decade of 60s, 70s, and 80s. Right, 70s and 80s was like people who are looking over the demographic studies. They started talking about population bomb or population explosion, because India have the growth rate, decadal growth rate means how much population is increased in a decade, right? So the result of 1971 census shows that India's decadal growth rate was somewhere around 24.65%. I'm not sure about last two digit after decimal, but 24% was something like that, a decadal growth rate. Means from 1961 to 1971. In that 10 years, India has increased its population. Suppose that in 1961 the population was 100, so now we are at 125. So in the 10 years, we have increased our population by 24 to 25%. That means that our population is going to be double in next 2 decades, and that is going to create a huge problem for a country like India, right? So that's why government have started schemes like family planning and all, right? So this was the phase. However, when you will enter from 1981 onwards, you will find that this birth rate was also started decreasing. As the economy will grow, more number of people are going to involve in the production activities, more participation of women in the economic activity. Then the birth rate is gradually is going to decrease, right? So with this from high to moderate, and now India is also heading from moderate to low. India is already heading towards this, and already we have heading towards the low death rate. But still, maybe you contradict with my statement that India's birth rate is not low or India's birth rate is not moderate. The problem with the India is that because when we compare with the other countries, our absolute number is very high. Our absolute number is very high. Our total population is very high. So even the percentage is low, right? Means 2% of 100 is going to be what? 2. But 2% of what? The 2% of 1 lakh is going to be how much? 2000. So if this is a country A and it is India, so both have how much? Both have 2% of rate. But when we talk about in the absolute numbers, they have only 2 and we have 2000 deaths. Right. So in India, the death is very high. Total number of death is very high. But if you will compare over the years, the rate is going to be gradually down. So as we move towards the better economic development, right, then we can see that growth is going to be what? Growth rate means in terms of birth rate and death rate, both are going to decrease over the time when country move towards the higher level of economic development. However, in this situation, when you are moving from high to low, especially in the birth, right, from birth rate, you are moving from high to moderate or moderate to low. So at a point of time, you are going to have what? You are going to have a high number of young population. At a point of time in the history, you are going to have a very high number of young population in your overall population. Young population means you can say here from 18 to 40, or even 18 to 45. So if this population of overall population, this population is having the highest number, then definitely the pace of economic development is going to increase. So you cannot plan your demographic dividend, because see what happened few decades back. China has opted what? One child policy. They have opted for one child policy. People thought that the reason is to contain the population, because China's population is very high. They have calculated that China want what? China want to contain their population. Actually, the reason was that China want to maintain their demographic dividend by containing the number of population. So they have some formulation in their mind and they want to change that. But after a decade, they found that if you are going to try to manipulate or manage the demographic dividend, it is going to backfire. And actually, it backfired the China. What they perceive that we are going to increase our demographic dividend by increasing this working population in the higher number and better optimization, but actually it backfired the China. And now China is officially has given up this policy and they are encouraging to have more than one child, two child or three child. They are not having this issue in their country. So the demographic dividend is a not kind of the thing which you can engineer. You cannot engineer it. It is going to be by what? By a chance or by a luck. You are going to have a higher economic dividend. Economic dividend बोल गया. You are going to have a higher demographic dividend in comparison to any other country. Every country is going to be this phase. What phase? Of a demographic dividend. But when you will compare with the other country, maybe that country is going to have a higher demographic dividend in comparison to any other country. For example, Pakistan and Bangladesh, right? They also have a higher population, right? Higher population, and they also have a higher economic demographic dividend. But how effectively they are able to utilize their demographic dividend? If you will see the last few years, means especially last 5 to 7 years, compare the India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. If you will compare these three countries of last 5 to 7 years, you will find that Bangladesh is much better in utilizing their demography for the dividend in comparison to even India also. They are in the better position and they are able to perform better in all the indicators, right? So it is very important when you have a demographic dividend, you must have to utilize in the proper manner. Otherwise, it is not going to help, and later on, it is going to be a big problem for you. For example, after 1950, India is going to have a highest aging population from 50s to 70s. Till then, 50s, you are going to have an advantage of demographic dividend. Like Japan. Japanese have this economic dividend, demographic dividend. Again, I'm using this economic dividend, sorry. So from this decades, even till then 2000, they have some edge, but now they have one of the world's largest aging population. So at a point of time of your economic development cycle, you are going to face this situation, the high number of aging population. And high number of aging population means government have to put lot of economic resources for health, health and related infrastructure if you have a high number of aging population, right? And you cannot accelerate your economy. So this is the problem you have to face. But if you have already huge number of resources like Japanese they do have, and even China also have, then they are going to effectively cope up that cycle, right? But country like India, which they have the huge number of economic dividend right now, if they are not going to effectively utilize that demographic dividend, then you are going to face a huge problem from 1940s, 2040 onwards. So it's like a what? You have an opportunity. Demographic dividend is an opportunity and you must have to encash. Otherwise, that demographic dividend is also going to create a huge problem for you. Fine. So It's a double-edged sword. It's a double-edged sword. How you are going to effectively utilize your demographic dividend. So any doubt related to means it's a simple concept, but still, if you have any doubt or question in your mind, you can ask. Otherwise, I will move to the PDF. Any question? No questions. Topic is boring. Is this boring topic? Just give me a minute, huh? Okay, sorry for interruption. So, like 2 point, then sir, India is trying to reduce the birth rate, or it's naturally happening. So India is not pushing right now. India is not pushing to reduce the birth rate. It's automatically decreasing. If you will see, since last two census, India have not made any kind of even in 90s, there was an advertisement in the public domain by the government regarding "Hum do hamare do" kind of the dialogue, or the slogan was being formed. But in last 20 years, no such kind of the campaign by the government of India in order to control the birth rate. It is naturally decreasing. It's showing that theory like 2.1 stand and we are 2.0. Yes, Vedamruta. Sir, what can be done to use the demographic dividend of India right now effectively? Yeah, I'm going to discuss in this PDF. This thing I'm going to discuss in this PDF. Right. Ki how we can effectively utilize our demographic dividend, all is mentioned here in this PDF. Okay. What need to be done? Way forward, I have mentioned, not I have mentioned means it was a kind of good material was available. I have compiled it. Right. It's not written by me. It's a compilation. Right. I did the compilation, collecting the resources, putting at one place so that it will be more easier for your exam point of view. So here first they have explained what is demographic dividend. Means the definition of UN population fund. The economic growth potential that can result from shift in the population's age structure, mainly when the share of working age population 15 to 64 is larger than non-working age share of population 14 and younger, 65 and older. Right. So here the working age population they have considered from 15 to 64, more liberal consideration. I went for 18 to 45, but they are taking from 15 to 64. With fewer birth each year, countries' working age population grow larger relatively to the younger dependent population. So, how you can go for this vote? How you can go for this economic dividend? This they have written with the fewer birth each and every year. Remember the China's one child policy, but this postulation was failed in the case of China, and they have unrestricted that policy. With more people of the labor force and fewer children to support, a country has a window of opportunity for economic growth if right social and economic investment right socio-economic investment and policies are made in the health, education, governance, and the economy. That means if you want to get the dividend, demographic dividend, health, education, governance, and overall economy is going to play a very crucial role to get that dividend. Right. So here they have discussed some facts about India's demographic dividend. India has 62%, 62.5% of its population in the age group of 15 to 59, which is ever increasing and will be at peak around 2036 when it will reach approximate 65%. So means even the next decade, this decade and next decade will be of China, but the decade of 2040 and decade of 2050, it's going to be of India. That's why some predictions are there. India is going to be the largest economy of the world by 2040 or 2050. Some economics, some kind of predictions were made. These population parameters indicates the availability of demographic dividend in India, which started in 2005-6 and it will last till then 2055-56. Economic survey 2018-19 demographic dividend will be peak around 2041 when the share of working age population will be 20 to 59. Okay. What I am thinking, I'll share this PDF rather than reading the entire PDF. I will share this PDF right now with you. As of immediately, I'm going to share this PDF with you. And once you will done this PDF tomorrow, then I will brief you about the few important points they have mentioned in this PDF. But first, you have to read that PDF. Is it okay? Is it okay? So I'll share this PDF right now. So I have just shared that PDF. Okay, so better to go with that, right? Better to go with that first. Then I will explain few things, especially how it can create a problem and how to come over those problems. Right? You should go with that PDF first. Then tomorrow I will, in 5 to 10 minutes, I will explain this thing, and after that I will take the next topic. Okay. So I'm winding this session for today right now. You should read that PDF, and tomorrow we will discuss all these things. Not all these things, what are the important thing regarding the demographic dividend I'm going to discuss. But that is complete PDF. No, nothing is required to study anything on this topic. That PDF is more than sufficient. I found on the internet some sources and I have compiled and I have given it to you. It's nothing like I have created. I just want to clarify, this is not my work, it's someone's else work, but that was a very good work and is going to fulfill your requirements. Okay. So winding up it right now, we will meet tomorrow at the same time. Same time means at 8 or 8:30. Fine. Okay then.